Okay, and that exactly leads us into the third question, which is what is a good answer? So you've asked these questions, you know what you're looking for. What is it that you want to be hearing? And if you don't know what that looks like, you might miss it. So you're not going to on purpose choose a bad fit either, but you might not know what it sounds like if it's not the right fit for you.
In general, the strategy that you should look for are kind of, they circle around two concepts. One is that you don't look for candor, you look for consistency. And the second is that you don't look for adjectives, you look for evidence. And what that looks like is the following. If you said that you wanted to definitely be in a lab that was like a smaller, closer knit lab where people are social and they communicate well and there's like no yelling, there are no microaggressions, then the way that you structure the interview is like a research project, or in this case, the way that you structure your rotation is like a research project, where you are basically assessing sort of three archetypes of individuals. One, your PI. Two, the people who are your peers, so other students, postdocs. It could be on the trainee side, on the staff side, it could be lab managers or lab techs. And then if they're, say, undergraduate interns in the lab or people who you might actually supervise, that's sort of that third tier. But basically, for any opportunity you're applying for, there are the kind of these three archetypes. And the general thought is that you are looking for consistency of answers between, not just within the archetype, but between archetypes. You can ask the PI, what qualities do you look for? And then you can ask, say, postdocs and peers things like, what qualities should you look for? And then in what ways have you experienced that here? Because if the PI says things like, we're really looking for people who are willing to support each other and to contribute to the success of the lab, then the peers should be able to give examples of what exactly that looked like. And so these four sort of criteria, it's the right answer, it's a credible answer, it's a thorough answer, it's the same type of answer, is really kind of what you're looking for.
And so to demonstrate these principles to you in action, I'm going to give you two example answers to a question that you might want to ask, which is, how did the PI help you get started off on the right foot? So on the first day of my rotation, my PI asked me to write down my goals for graduate school. So scientifically, academically, personally, and we reviewed them together. And she told me that those are goals that she wanted to support me in. And we revisited them. We ended up revisiting them every 6 months throughout my graduate career. She gave me 3 grants that she had written and that had been funded, for me to read and choose the kind of scientific questions that were most interesting to me. And then come up with some new experiment ideas around those proposals, write those up, and then bring those to her. And she would give me feedback on those experiments and my writing. And at the same time, we started doing one-on-one journal clubs about classic papers in the field related to the topics that I was going to be researching. And so what you hear in that answer is a lot of evidence. There's a lot of details, there's a lot of things that actually happened, and there's some commentary too on whether that was good or not for me, but you have a lot of facts. In contrast, if someone isn't having an experience like that, and you ask them the same question, it's going to be harder for them to produce evidence, and so it might sound more like this. Let's see, the PI was really helpful. I got started on my project right away, and there were other people in the lab kind of working on similar things, and it's super fun. I really liked the project, and it went really well. And the PI was super supportive the whole time, and I really enjoyed my time in this lab. So that answer has a lot of positive things in it, but not as much evidence. There's no details. There's no things you can say like, oh, this happened. This is a thing I could expect to also happen in my rotation. And when you get an answer like that, you can dig a little deeper. You can always ask like, oh, that sounds like you had a good experience. Could you give me some examples of what happened? Or what did it look like when the PI was supportive? You said that the PI was really supportive. Or you said your project went well. Like, how did you know your project was going well? What kind of things happened? Or like, what did the PI do to let you know that you were doing well? So you can always ask follow-up questions in case you think people aren't just giving you the full story, but make sure that you pay attention to what they say in response to that. And that's where you can really pay attention to kind of what people aren't saying rather than what they are saying. So if someone isn't talking about something, it's probably because it isn't there. I would never forget to mention the things that my PI did when I started my rotation, because those things were all really helpful. But if someone's not having that experience, they're not going to be able to talk about it. And so you can sort of hear between the lines about things that aren't being said as things that really aren't actually present.
And so those are our 3 questions. Thanks everybody. If you've got any questions, we'll have some contact information below about how you can reach us.